My mom always said, don't get married. And this is the source of the problem of the birth rate crisis. Not only in South Korea, but anywhere in the world. Women don't like men and they find children burdensome. And now in the modern day, they can do without, and so they're going to. And they don't give a shit about the future. This is strictly about their lives. This is the way it is. Okay? So we'll start at the beginning.
With the help of the government.
마음의 여유가 없어요, 보니까.
Sorry, at the very beginning.
These young South Koreans are on a mass blind date. 100 men and women are here hoping to find love. With the help of the government.
마음의 여유가 없어요, 보니까. 그래서 내 친구가
For the next 5 hours, they'll play games, dance, and dine.
This is a waste of time. You say these women don't work with men around? We could hook up with any of them? No. They're not interested. The guys aren't high status. This is women searching for the guys that actually have wealth and prestige. These guys don't have it. This isn't going to end up to be anything worthwhile.
Until they find the one. But it's not all fun and games. South Korea is facing a demographic time bomb, grappling with the world's lowest fertility rate that threatens its very future.
Yeah, women aren't interested. They're interested in men. And they're not interested in children. What are you going to do about it? South Korea.
And the government is scrambling for solutions, from cash for having babies to unconventional initiatives like this matchmaking.
That's really radical, bribing women. It's not like the average guy who wants to be a husband isn't doing that already.
The country even declared a national emergency over the plunging birth rate.
In countries that have low fertility rates, younger people don't find it worth it to have kids.
Don't make it gender neutral. Younger women. Men in Korea are already grinding their lives away just to get by. They will do it to have a woman in their lives. So there's only one gender to blame here.
There's a lot of negativity about parenthood.
Experts warn of a demographic trap that could overwhelm economic growth. By 2044, South Korea's workforce could shrink by nearly 10 million.
아이를 낳아라 말아의 문제가 아니라 그래야지 우리 사회가 어떻게 지속을 할 수 있냐의 문제.
But for many young South Koreans, it's personal.
It's always personal. Not just for many, it's always personal. This is a problem that's countrywide here, but it's also worldwide. So what is it? These women are always thinking about themselves, and that is the way it always has been. It's not just this generation. It's only the modern times is brand new, so people didn't realize what was going on. Women in the past had children for their own benefit. And now the kids don't benefit them, so they're dumping them, along with the husbands, which they never wanted.
Usually, we think that getting married means sacrificing myself.
There you go. Self-sacrifice, right? And they're not into that. This idea of self-sacrificing parents is bullshit. People only sacrifice when they're forced to. And these women aren't forced to. Now, this birth rate supposed problem, right? Which actually I see it as a benefit because we're overpopulated anyway. But the point I'm making here, the main solution is what we've got a gangrenous limb, which you have to make the choice of cutting it off or dying. These countries have to come to terms to either force women to have children or you just accept it and go on and try and get by. Now, it's going to be the second. because men don't force women to do shit. And I wouldn't be into it anyway. I'm glad the mask is off. I don't want things to return the way it was.
폰이 되는 이유는 청년 세대의 삶의 질이 너무 떨어지고 있다고 생각을 해요.
What's unfolding here mirrors a wider global trend that's hitting East Asia the hardest.
There you go. It's global. Thank you for admitting that. Right. And why is it hitting East Asia the hardest? Because it's new to East Asia. East Asia has become just recently like one of the first world powers. These countries, China, Korea, right? So they're joining the ranks. They're joining the ranks of women finding out they can now dump the men that they never wanted and the children they never wanted.
So what can the world learn from South Korea's crisis? And what does it mean for their future?
The future is it's going to be tougher for the next generation, and they're going to just get by through it. That's what's going to happen. That's a simple prediction. You don't need to be a genius.
This matchmaking event has been running since 2023. And 28-year-old Eun Bae hopes to find her future husband here.
She's hoping to find a wealthy man. That's all she's saying, right? Trouble is, it doesn't work for the crisis, right? Because what you term as wealthy is comparative to the next guy. So there's always only going to be a few top guys. The vast majority of women are going to go for the highest, paying man, and the rest aren't going to be good enough, and they'd rather do without than shack up with them.
진지하게 미래까지 함께할 수 있는 사람을 찾으러 나왔습니다.
Look for someone I can envision my future with seriously. Translation: a man who makes enough money that I'd be willing to accept his bribe.
저출생 문제 극복에 가장 첫 관문이 결혼을 하는 것입니다. 일이 많고 직장 다니는
Well, actually, it's not getting married. It's just having children.
청춘들을 위해서
When he says married, what he's saying is women will actually shack up with men, hang around men. It's not just getting pregnant. It's like give men the crumbs of their, dine them with their presence.
우리가 만남의 장을 만들어 주었습니다.
South Korean women are now having fewer children than ever before, less than one child per woman, far below the 2.1 rate needed for a generation to replace itself.
Well, you're in for a troubling future then. Just accept it.
사실 전쟁 중이지도 않은 한국에서 이런 숫자가 나온다는 건 전 세계적으로도 유례가 없는 일이고요.
For this 26-year-old aspiring actress, individuality and career ambitions take precedence.
Yeah, but notice her career is acting, right? So in other words, it's the most prestige and wealth for the minimal amount of effort. We all want that. We all want to be writers and rock stars, right? Everyone wants that, right? But these women, like I say, they're not considering the next generation. They don't consider anything beyond themselves.
결혼이나 출산 같은 경우는 필수적인 요소는 아니라고
Yeah, see, they're not essentials in life. And she's right, though. For women, they aren't. Children were a burden women had to put up with. And now they don't. They can get rid of them. What are you going to do about it, everybody?
생각을 해요. 사실 배우로서의 저의 커리어 앞으로 너무 하고 싶은 것도 많고
If this woman was a waitress, she would probably get married. She'd probably say, yeah, I'll marry some sucker and let him do all the heavy lifting. But a producer or something way up top level would have to marry this girl, right? That's one she would choose.
하고자 하는 방향도 명확한 것도 맞고요.
She believes her generation is dealing with larger issues beyond finding happiness through traditional family values.
Not larger issues. Translation. They are actually able to think entirely about themselves. Ask them what these larger issues are, right? It all come down to what they want, personally.
어느 정도의 경제력, 그리고 시간, 그리고 마음의 상태,
Mental state and physical strength. Translation. It's all about me. Notice how nebulous it is. It's like politician talk. They don't want to just come out and say, I just care about myself, and that's it.
몸의 체력적인 부분, 사실 이런 것들이 여유라고 저는 생각을 하는데
The latest government report in June says economic conditions such as work-life balance, housing, cost of living, and job opportunities are key to marriage and childbirth.
They're all economic. They said economic aspects, but they never mentioned any other aspects because there aren't any. You got to pay women mucho in order to get them to have a guy orbiting them. Remember, women don't like men and they don't want to deal with children, right? It's all financial. You have to be a millionaire or even a billionaire before these women will say, yes, I'll just leech off you.
Decisions.
매월 초가 되면은 아씨 이번 달 카드값 어떻게 내지? 내가 무작정적으로 내가 저출산 이 시대에 힘이 될 거야 라는 생각은 안 해요. 지금 나 당장 먹고 살 것도 힘든데.
Yeah, see what I mean? But notice she doesn't think, hey, if I had a male partner and we shared the bills, right? That doesn't come into it, right? That just tells you, like I said, the woman said, don't get married. Don't be with these men. Women do not like men. They don't like us. You have to come to terms. That didn't even consider. That wasn't even a consideration for her to have a man in her life and make the, financial ease.
Now we have these highly educated generations, but there's so many financial and economic pressures on housing, on all of those things that.
Yeah. Highly educated women, now they're not willing to settle for Joe Blow. That's right.
There's not a surety that people will be able to hit those markers of adulthood that we really relied on in the past.
Translation. Markers of adulthood, right? They're supposed to be having children and being self-sacrificing. That's bullshit. That's bullshit, right? Those markers are always for men anyway. They're the ones that they'll say, if you don't reach these, you're not an adult. These young women, are they calling them children? Saying you're not a woman yet? No.
South Korea's birth rate decline has been unfolding for decades.
우리 기록상 1971년도에 100만 명이 태어났는데요. 50여 년이 지난 작년에는 23만 명, 재작년에는 25만 명이 태어났습니다.
97년에는 IMF 경제 위기가 있었고 2020년에는 코로나 신생아 수가 무너졌던 그 순간 두 번째가 있었는데요.
Yeah, well, what are you guys going to do about it? Because they've been talking about this for years. No one's come up with a solution yet. Because the fact is they're staring at a gangrenous limb situation. You either cut it off or you die, right?
경제 활동이 굉장히 어려워지고 많은 국민들이 출산을 하지 않는 선택을 했던 것이고요. 불과
Not many citizens, many women. See, they're always when women are to blame, they always make it gender neutral.
50년 사이에 대한민국 인구 절반이 사라지게 되는 것이 예상되고 있습니다.
Since the early 2000s, the country has rolled out a bunch of initiatives to tackle the declining birth rate, pouring in.
Now, look at these silly little initiatives. Parental leave for both parents, 6 months each, mortgages and cheaper interest rates. the right to request reduced working hours. None of these are effective for women, right? It's not a big enough bribe. Their big incentive is to what? Or I should say solution is to offer these small incentives. Beg women to have children.
More than $280 billion so far. And yet, they have fallen far short, with one survey showing 90% of respondents find the birth rate campaigns ineffective.
굉장히 성급한 정책.
Yeah, because they're not serious. For one thing, they're not willing to admit who the problem is. So if you can't admit the source, you're not going to come up with an effective solution.
청년을 이해하지 못하는 정책들이 나오고 있는 것 같습니다.
Some initiatives border on the absurd, like this politician promoting Keagle exercises, or this one suggesting girls start primary school a year earlier than boys to make them more appealing.
What does that mean? Give the women a further leg up? The reason why they're dumping men is because their lives have become easy.
And let's face it, raising kids is downright expensive. We're not just...
No, the wife is expensive, everybody. The wife is expensive. The children are cheap.
Talking about diapers and milk anymore. A recent study revealed that South Korea is the most expensive country in the world to raise a kid, at 7.79 times the GDP per capita. And its education...
Well, that's Korea's fault, isn't it? Right? So is this part of the solution? They don't mention that, right? Listen.
Education expenses, like cram schools or private tutoring, that are taking up the single largest cost.
한국 사회에
Okay, so you see, Korea he's got this grind, right? It says, look, we could stop abusing our populations and stop making them compete the super competition is obviously bad. We could stop that and make things cheaper. They're not going to stop that. So they're part of the problem as well.
저출생 대책이라고 하는 것이 임신과 출산과 육아에만 포커스를 맞추고 있는데, 그것이 아니라 아이를 낳고 키우기 좋은 사회로 간다는 이 사회의 대전환의 패러다임 속에서 저출생 대책을 고민해야.
That's certainly the case for Ji Hae-myung, who leads a busy life working for a foreign real estate company. Despite getting married 5 years ago, the 37-year-old remains deeply skeptical about having children.
There you go, guys. She didn't want children. She's happy with her life. What are you going to do about it? This woman actually got married, right? Why'd you get married? Because her man's probably at least her equal to making money. I suspect he's making more money. So she accepted a bride. So she dines to have this guy orbiting her. That's it. But she's not having children.
My mom always said that don't get married.
Her mother, this is the generation before, right? So women have always felt this way. Always. Come to terms, all you guys that say this generation blah, 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 and this generation blah, blah, blah. This has always been the case. Human beings have always been the same.
That generation woman, their life is not that happy because our society, there is really strong Confucianism, so the structure is not fair.
Actually, the problem is the structure is fair. In other words, the woman's leeching off the man, and the man gets to pretend that he's in charge. The woman isn't dominant. She actually has to do what she's told once in a while. So that's a problem. This is a trade-off, and women aren't in the trade-offs. They want it all. They want to make sure the man works for them, and they are the ones that say how things go. That's it. And that's the way it is here in the West. You either give them what they want, you either submit, or it doesn't happen.
Especially husband and wife. Many company, they still think that taking care of child should be for a woman, not man. Why we should?
If I was there, I'd be shutting her down now, because these women will not reverse it. They will not fight for the man to take care of the child. They don't want a man leeching off them and living the easy life. We know that now. We've known it for a while.
Choose family or my career. I think it's really unfair.
성별임금 격차.
It's nonsense. That's what I mean. Look, you either have a child or you don't. These are sacrifices. Life is unfair. Now look at this one. They're going to prove South Korea has one of the highest gender wage gaps in the world. In other words, the men work that much more than the women. That's what the gender gap means, and they're going to admit it.
가 한국의 가장 큰 나라 중에 하나거든요. 아이를 낳고 돌아오면 사실 그 임금 갭이 더 벌어져 있을 수밖에 없는 조건 속에서
Choose to have the career. In other words, if they have the child, they can't work, and that's the wage gap. So it's not a wage gap, it's an earnings gap.
많은 여성들이 아이를 낳는 대신 커리어를 유지하는 선택을 할 수밖에 없고요.
And this is not to provide their fair share. Because the woman's money is hers and the man's money is ours. Right. So when these women, they don't have children because every bit of money they're making goes to them personally. So this is all about them.
The fear of career setbacks for women is a major reason behind the falling fertility rate in South Korea, contributing to almost half of the drop.
We see that women are increasingly sandwiched between caring for aging parents and young children, and then also being asked to work more. And it's a nearly impossible task, right?
But they're not being asked to work more. They're asked to look after the parents and children. So this is bullshit. Don't listen to that horse shit there. These women are going to make a choice, and they made a choice. They'd rather just work and be single and live for themselves.
실제로 제 주변에
Something that they shame men if men try to do. Notice one of the radical solutions isn't to shame women. It's to beg them, please come have babies.
또 저와 비슷한 시기에 아이를 낳거나 지금 출산을 고민하고 있는 많은 여성들이 아이를 낳고 난 뒤에 내가 직장에 복귀할 수 있을까 하는 경력 단절의 고민들을 갖고 있고 실제로 해고당하는 경우도 있고요.
I think to have a baby is really a blessing for our life. If
it was, then you'd have one.
Ready. But if I'm not ready, it could be disaster.
Their stories reflect what's happening across the region. For the first time in modern history,
Notice they're always talking about women, right? Like they're not admitting that the women are the source of the problem, but they're always talking to women, right? The only men they showed are guys who were involved, in the official problem, right? Like they're like a politician or who is that guy? But they're showing the source of the problem. They're not even willing to admit that these women are the source of the problem. They're not even blaming them, right? They're saying there's this tremendous problem, and the thing is, the women it's unfair to them, right?
history, the number of women in their prime childbearing years across East Asia is projected to fall below 100 million next year, according to the UN.
이 문제가 단순히 경제적인 한 나라에 국한된 문제가 아니라 동북아 지역의 외교 안보 그리고 좀
It's related to diplomatic security and economic situations. Diplomatic? This guy's off his rocker.
경제적 상황, 글로벌하게 연관된 문제로 저는 해석을 하고 있습니다. 그 저소득계층, 그리고 지방, 그리고 젊은 세대들에게 더 불리한 환경이 되면서
For low income classes, rural areas, younger generation. Right. People without money. Men without enough money to bribe the leeches into, women into leech off them. That's what's going on here.
서구 사회도 마찬가지입니다. 성녀들이 지금 어떤 생각을 하고 있는지 어떻게 가고 있는지 봐야 되고요. 옆에 나라들은 어떻게 흘러가고 있는지도 같이 봐주셔야 될 것 같아요.
Experts say the steep fertility decline won't be reversed, at least in the next few decades.
It's not going to be reversed at all.
So the question remains, what can be done? First,
You tell me. You said there were these radical solutions. I haven't heard one yet.
some, it's helping women balance work and family life.
뭐 예를 들면 여성과 남성이 같이 이제 육아휴직을 썼을 때 혹은 번갈아 가면서
Yeah, see what I mean? It's always begging women, right? If it was men, they would just tell them, this is your duty, go do it.
육아휴직을 썼을 때 그 기업과 그 부부에게 더 인센티브를 준다거나 아빠들의 육아휴직을 늘릴 수 있었던 유럽의 여러 가지 방법들 이런 것들을 오히려 한국이 더 많이 벤치마킹 해와야 되지 않을까 싶습니다.
Notice it's all vague gibberish.
And for the youth, it's creating a sense of stability and security.
Women, I want a man making as much money as he can. I want the highest pay, earning man before I shack up with him.
세대가 출산과 임신에 대해서 진지하게 고민을 할 수 있는 어느 정도의 터전과 생활의 수준이 필요하다고 생각을 하고
Quality of life. Translation. I want to be with a wealthy person. I want my life to be top tier. I want the highest status. I want to be able to live an easy life with lots of luxury. That's what quality means. A luxurious life.
하고 그거를 뒷받침해 줄 수 있는 어느 정도의 정책이 명확해지고 명백해져야지.
Clear policies to support that. So she doesn't mention what they are, right? Nothing concrete can ever be said because no one's willing to admit what they really want.
그 여유라는 게 제 스스로 느껴졌을 때 출산이란 걸 고민하게 될 것 같아요.
I think we've gone far enough with this. I don't think we need to go to the very end. What is it? They're showing that women are the issue. They're the ones that have to make the decision to have babies. They don't want to. The governments aren't willing to force them. So instead of just coming to the terms with the future that, hey, there's nothing to do, this change is here to stay, they just talk endlessly about it and skirt the issue. It's really pathetic. I'm looking forward to the future. I hope I live another 30 years to see all this crash and burn. And I don't mean like societal collapse. I mean society just have to finally deal with it and say what the truth is. Oh, the average person is a loser. Anyway, see you around, guys.